live for you today. And part of it is the color I'm wearing. If you're watching this live, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And 12 years ago, during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I was flying all around the country hiding a secret. And the secret I was hiding was because I had just started a new job that August. And I was scared to tell my new boss and employer what was going on. By now, you're putting the pieces together. 12 years ago, I was newly diagnosed with breast cancer in both breasts. After many diagnostic studies, mammograms, CT scans, MRIs with contrast, and over 4, or there could have been 5 biopsies, where they leave that little marker of metal in your breast so that they know where they took the biopsy. After several months of that, the diagnosis was confirmed that I had breast cancer in both my right and my left breast. And so the month of October, for me, 12 years ago, was full of follow-up doctor visits and deciding on a treatment plan. And of course, it was also dealing with an amazing amount of stress, life choices, anxiety, fear, etc. And I was holding this secret in because I couldn't afford to screw up telling my new employer what was going on and what I needed. So I traveled the country in my role. I met with my team. I continued to lay the foundation of my new job and being successful in that up until the point where I really had to make the announcement that I had breast cancer and I was going to need some time off. But I want to tell you something. This whole journey was all about getting a jolt from life. And if you know my work, you know that there's a deeply spiritual component and a deeply personal growth component in the work I do. You see, so many of us, when we get a life jolt, we're pushed backwards. And so many women we talk to through our complimentary career clarity calls don't bounce back. Or they're barely a shadow of themselves as they are trying to bounce back. But in 2008, when I was diagnosed with my breast cancer, I had had coaching for 8 years. I had been a life student of personal development, and I had done a lot of work on myself. As a matter of fact, I was beginning to bring some of the techniques and some of the tools that I had gained for myself personally that had helped my career up until that point. I'd begin bringing them to my team and leading in a way that was slightly different in this new job. I had national responsibility to run a big division of a company, and I was traveling a lot nationally and getting to know my team. But just 3 months in, I had to make a big announcement, and it was a big announcement enough to jolt me backwards. If I didn't have the support structures of my own personal growth, coaching, and of course, a very supportive family and network of friends, that jolt backward would have felt a whole lot different than it eventually did, and it eventually was a jolt forward. And I'm not here to tell you about all of the tests, the surgery, 13-hour surgery to remove the breasts and rebuild them, the ICU stay, the hospital stay, the passing out and needing a blood infusion, and all of that. Eventually, medication I needed to take to knock estrogen out of my system, and eventually a follow-up hysterectomy. I'm not here to talk about all that. All that physical stuff was painful, agonizing, and took a toll on my physical body. But the thing that happened through that entire journey was a deeply enriching growth experience that could have been an entire jolt backwards. And I've talked to a lot of women who have had not only breast cancer, but other adverse events in life that have jolted them backward. And sometimes we don't even know how far back we've been pushed. Sometimes we don't even get it. You know why? You know why we don't always know just how far back we've been pushed? Because human beings are adaptive creatures. We will adapt to nearly everything. And that adaptation that causes us to be survival creatures, that causes us to normalize pains and agonies and traumas that we have. All of those survival mechanisms ultimately cloud our judgment on what's really going on. Unless you're woken up by the jolt, you're really not going to take care of the business at hand. And the business at hand is the internal work that's now being called for. So, of course, when I was going through my breast cancer journey, like every woman who has gone through it, and a few men, everyone who goes through an adverse life event, the first thing you're doing is what's necessary to survive. That's the first agenda item of any adverse life event, of surviving any trauma, whether it be a physical, like a surgery or a cancer diagnosis. Sometimes it's an event of a death of a spouse or child. Sometimes it's job loss. Sometimes it's an adverse event within a family member, someone who needs care for cancer, someone who is going through their own trauma or difficulty, needing to house a family member temporarily while they're going through difficulty. Those life jolts will push you backwards. They will cause an adverse event syndrome that will cause you to retreat into that, just exactly that survival mechanism. Please, ladies, let me know that you're here. I'm feeling all alone here on my story. And hello to Andrea. Thanks for joining me today. Every year when Breast Cancer Awareness Month comes up, I feel conflicted about telling my journey. And at the same time, I feel inspired and compelled. There was a time that I went to a Susan G. Komen race in Washington, D.C. And at least in those events several years ago, I don't know if they still do this, when you're a survivor, you actually get like a breakfast tent and you get to hang out with other survivors and meet other women who have gone through breast cancer. And in the course of doing that and chatting with different women, I met several women. I met several survivors, long years of survival. And I met some women who were brand new diagnosed and just in the beginning of their breast cancer journey. And I don't remember each and every woman I talked to, but I was having fun sharing my experience and feeling very proud to have survived a double mastectomy and the surgery and coming back strong and to be a runner again. I was a runner all my life and kind of claiming that runner identity back after my breast cancer and the deep surgery that I underwent was a real sense of getting my identity back to where I felt myself again. Several months later, my older sister was having a mammogram at a hospital in the DC area. And she related to me a story about the mammo tech. The mammography tech had shared with her that she had just gone through a bit of a breast cancer journey. And she was so inspired by a woman she had met at the Susan G. Komen run, who survived a double mastectomy, ran a marathon, and how this woman had told her all about her survival story. And my sister was like, a woman from Florida? Yeah. And she said to that mammotech, that was my sister. That is my sister's story. And this mammogram tech had survived and felt inspired by my story. And so partly for that reason, I share my story, not only of survival, but of resilience and of jolting forward, because that's the important part. Life is going to hand us adverse events. Life is going to be sometimes difficult and challenging. And it's really about how we move through these, how we grow, how we become a higher, better version of ourselves. Thank you, Paula. And Nancy, 14th year of being a survivor. God bless you, and so glad for you. And Kelly and Lisa, nice to see you ladies here as well. So what I really want to talk about today is more than the breast cancer, but at the same time, please take the message, get yourself your annual mammogram, and please respect the care and needs of your body to be checked and looked at as often as medically indicated. Please don't go into I'm too busy or denial or what if they find something and then what? I mean, please do not do that. Again, our human psychology can be the best for us and it can be the worst for us. Oftentimes, it actually leads us astray when it's in fear, denial, and despair. So life jolted me backwards 12 years ago with the initial diagnosis and what I had to do to deal with it, both physically, mentally, spiritually, and also very practically, as far as getting a shower chair, getting some pajamas and gowns that I could wear easily. I was a double mastectomy, and they told me a little bit about how I wasn't going to be able to move my arms for a while, and there was like a lot of setup here to deal with. My mother and I actually invented a special top that where we actually cut a oversized t-shirt at the top of the shoulders and down the front. And my mother actually put Velcro at the top of the t-shirt and down the front so it could be easily opened and taken off without me having to move my arms. My mother is a brilliant nurse and also a seamstress, and she was able to be a superhero for me by making those garments. Even though it jolted her backwards as a mother, it jolted her forward in her creativity and helping me have garments that I would wear that would be easier for me to recover with. So since I had a positive situation, coaching, personal development that had taken me to a place where I understood self-reflection, I understood myself. It doesn't mean I didn't go through hardship and tears and fear. It doesn't mean I avoided that. But I knew better how to go through it than maybe some other folks. And I've talked to lots of women over the years who have gone through breast cancer. And I've talked to a lot of women who have shunned help and support out of fear. Unfortunately, one of my coworkers' wives came down with breast cancer, came down with it like it's a cold, was diagnosed with breast cancer, very similar diagnosis to me. And she died 6 years later, leaving 2 small kids and a heartbroken husband. And I was her friend through the process of her going through that. It was very difficult for her and her family. Her outcome wasn't what mine was. So when life jolts us backward, let's make it temporary. But you have got to have one massive ingredient, and that is the courage to go within. Not within as a retreat, but within as to finding the strength within. There were so many moments as I was recovering, in a lot of pain actually, because double mastectomy, it was what's the right word? Transplanting of my own tissue into my breast tissue. All of that was quite painful. And for the first couple of weeks, there were drains and all sorts of complications with what that surgery entailed. I had never had surgery before that time. And I had never had the opportunity to sit and ponder and think and rest and sleep so many days in a row as I did recovering from that surgery. And because I had tools and techniques to do that, I was able to go very deep within and realize that who I wanted to be following that episode was to change people's lives. I remember clearly one day sitting in my family room watching TV. My mother, who was helping me for the first couple of weeks, she at the time lived in New York State and flew down and stayed with me for 2 weeks. I was sitting in a lounge chair in my family room, and I was looking out the window. And it was a beautiful November day, blue sky. It was a gorgeous day. And I remember how many times I sat in that chair watching football or watching a movie in my family room, never anticipating being in that situation. And here I was, a marathon runner, a successful executive, completely disfigured and recovering from something I never imagined would come my way. But I declared at that particular moment, and it'll be a moment that's going to stay with me forever, that I was going to use this opportunity for good. I made a declaration at the soul level that I was going to change the world somehow because of this. And I decided that I was going to use the difficulty and the pain to motivate myself to do something more than I had ever done before. I didn't know what that was going to be. I thought maybe it would be raising money. I thought maybe it would be helping other women with breast cancer. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I made a soul declaration that I was going to do something big. And I had convinced myself that just going back to work and helping my team members be the most awesome version of them might be what it was. I didn't really have the plan for it. I just knew that there was something inside of me that I was going to be different from that point on. And being in my mid to late 40s at the time, I figured it was going to have to be in my profession somehow. And maybe it was a bigger job or a bigger role or having more people report to me. I wasn't sure. And so I went back to work with a new mission. I went back to work with a mission to help everyone who worked on my team find themselves and find their soul and find their powerful, powerful level. It didn't have the words that I do now for it, but I wanted them to feel their own personal power of who they are as a human individual on the planet, like I had during my breast cancer recovery. I didn't know what it was that I was feeling, but now I know that the power and the conviction that I was feeling was my soul coming back to life. It was my life force claiming itself again. After having a pretty successful career, but fighting for everything I ever got and feeling like I never got quite what I felt like I ought to have gotten. Always kind of shortchanged a little bit. Always kind of working a little bit too hard for what I was getting out of it. Always feeling like being a woman was a big disadvantage. Feeling like I always sort of ended up on the wrong side of the equation after working so hard and being smart and being dedicated and loyal. And I know a lot of you women know what that feels like. So when I came back, and admittedly, I came back to work a little bit too soon, but I missed my team. I missed these new people I had just gotten to know. And they surrounded me with love. At the hospital, they came to visit. They gave me beautiful gifts before I departed for my surgery. And I really could feel their love. After only being there for 3 months, having to depart as their new leader, I can remember the day when I said that I was going to be gone for a month, and why. And we all sat in a conference room and cried. And these were people I had just met 3 months earlier. The level of personal transparency that I had to be for them was the beginning of my soul coming back to life, because I had to tell them how much I cared about them and how much I was going to miss them, and I was hoping to come back. At that point, I didn't know exactly what my breast cancer diagnosis was going to yield. I didn't know if it was going to mean chemotherapy and radiation. I didn't know how bad it was going to be after the surgery. But I was very committed to being a stronger, more powerful version of me so I could help people grow. And when I came back, I was a cheerleader, a coach, a personal development professional, on top of being a leader and responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars of budgeted revenue for our company. And I remember my first anniversary. Now, been at this company for just a little over a year, my first anniversary of my surgery. My team had a little party for me. And again, the tears came when I thanked them, and they thanked me. Not only for being a strong example, but also for helping them find areas of who they are and getting to know themselves at a deeper level. I didn't really know where this was leading me, but I just felt that I had to help them see how awesome they are and how much better they could be at work if they felt more confident, if they had some tools and techniques that I had learned along the way. That was the beginning of me starting to understand bring your soul to work. And over the years, I had collected some techniques, communication techniques, presentation techniques, and different ways to basically be organized and be more successful. Some of these techniques I now have in my Kick-Ass workshop. Some of these techniques I have in my Leadership Academy. Some of these techniques are just part of the spontaneous coaching I do and some of the additional programs we have. But if it weren't for my breast cancer journey and who I had to become through that and how it jolted me forward, and it forced me, that one November afternoon sitting in my chair in my family room, it forced me to declare that I wanted to make a difference in this world. My breast cancer journey brought me that. I've always been kind of spunky and ambitious and good at what I did and a fast learner. But that declaration that my soul came through me and made me realize that I wanted to do something impactful in the world was a feeling I will never forget. And the fact that I was able to go back to a team who cared about me and that I was able to rise up from that and have a reasonably easy recovery. I mean, I say easy, but let's face it, my breasts are gone, my uterus, ovaries are gone. All things being equal, I'm still here to keep living life. All of that journey, even though on the surface was devastating, and it was painful. It jolted my family. I ran a marathon, a full marathon with my little sister 10 days before my double mastectomy surgery because she and I were in training. She had lost a significant amount of weight through training and running half marathons, and she asked me to run a full marathon with her. And I told my breast surgeon that I was not going to have the surgery until after that marathon, hoping that was okay. And that's what I did. So the year that I ran that marathon, 2008, with my little sister, my oldest sister was moving into a new home, and my parents came to DC to watch us run the marathon. And so I was newly diagnosed at this point with my breast cancer, and I had my surgery date planned 10 days later. So this was the end of October, the Marine Corps Marathon in DC. And this is the first time I saw my parents face to face after my diagnosis, because they were living in New York State at the time. And my dad, who was a very strong and not a very emotional guy, looked at me and said, "I can't believe this is happening to you." And he had tears in his eyes, and I had tears in my eyes. And just the recollection and when you're brought to, the possibility of death, life gets a different dimension. And everyone who was involved in my life at the time, I know they went through something. And I went through something that forever changed me on the outside and on the inside. I wouldn't have my kick-ass career coaching workshop if it weren't for my breast cancer journey. I certainly wouldn't have the Bring Your Soul to Work tagline. I wouldn't have had all the people who have been able to resonate and relate to my workshop, come to my workshop, if my soul hadn't been brought back to life during that journey. I certainly wouldn't be able to speak from the pulpit of experience if I didn't have a great career that I maneuvered and that I struggled with on many occasions. I didn't breeze through having this wonderful executive career. I worked my ass off, and I learned all the things not to do. I made all the mistakes. I lost my job 6 times. It wasn't an easy 30-year career. And to have the breast cancer intervention when I was 46 years old made it even bumpier. Now I was afraid that I would be seen as someone who was harmed and weak and vulnerable. And perhaps that would be the end of my career. And I said, no. I found myself a new gear. And when I found my soul's true power, and when I claimed myself back, and I began to be a more powerful version of me and not look over my shoulder all the time and not doubt myself and not wonder every single minute if I was doing the right thing or saying the right thing. When I found that dimension in me, it is now the secret to how I've helped over 700 women claim their souls and their careers back. And it's never been a linear progression for any of you women, any of those women at all. What it is real. Your soul is a real life force that wants to be big and strong and powerful. It's a life force that gets burnt out, it gets crushed, life jolts it backwards and it doesn't come back. Or perhaps life events hurt so much that the only thing that you know how to do is to go backwards and isolate. I've had women who've had kids who've died, committed suicide, difficult marriages, difficult divorces, painful life events, childhood events, traumas. Life is going to have adverse events. And when you have your soul's power, when you have the source of divine, When you have access to that, you can then go forward, not just in your skeleton, but in your life force. When your life force is alive, no matter what, or when you can bring it back to life after having a life event that crushes you, and whether that be a job loss, a bad boss, a toxic environment, or maybe it's just for most of your life you felt crappy about who you are in the world. That's how we help our gals come back to life. It's because we know how to bring their soul back. And I know how to help you bring your soul back because that's what I went through. I had to bring my soul back to life. I found that dimension because I was pushed so backwards on my breast cancer diagnosis that I really didn't know what was going to happen. And that declarative day where my soul came back and spoke to me, and my divine creator tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're going to be okay. Something great's going to come out of this." It's exactly what I needed to be here right now, today. It's exactly what I've needed for every woman I've touched as a coach. I know there's plenty of people who worked for me and were on my teams as I was finishing up my career. I worked for 4 more years after my not 6 more years after my breast cancer diagnosis and recovery. In 2014, I decided that I had reached the pinnacle of my career, and it was time for me to make good on that promise that my soul asked me and I declared that I was going to do. And I had no idea how this was going to come together or come to be. And all the pieces came to and came through. And I feel so blessed to have gone through everything I've gone through career-wise, personally, the ups, the downs, the breast cancer, the subsequent other surgeries that were necessary. I feel so blessed to have gone through all of that because it allowed me to be the version of me I needed to be for you. And there's some of yous who I don't know yet. And I'm going to bring that soulful, powerful version of me every time. Every time I show up on a Facebook Live, every time I coach, every time I do a video for my workshops or my Leadership Academy gals, my badass soulful leaders, kick-ass warriors, the grad group, my ladies who come to the annual retreat, every time I show up, my soul is replenished because that promise is made good. And I feel so blessed to have had all of these events in my life, and in particular my breast cancer journey, because it's the one that jolted me backwards and then jolted me so forward. I didn't know what had happened to me. Now I understand it, and now I get it. You don't need breast cancer to jolt you forward. But if you've had something that jolted you backwards, and you feel like you're just not living the life that you were meant to live. And I just got finished interviewing one of my beautiful clients, and that's what she was doing. She was hanging out for years in a job that was beneath her, was too small, but she thought that's all she was capable of doing because her new boss was convincing her of that. And today she's thriving in a new job at a new company, and people are recognizing her because her soul is back alive. It had been dead. It had been jolted backwards, and she was not living her true power. And now she said she feels powerful, like she can do anything. And I know it's true because I see it in her eyes. I see it in her authenticity. I see it in her full expression of who she is now. That is my commitment to you, to keep bringing the version of Mo who survived breast cancer, the version of me who made that commitment to myself and my divine creator that I was going to do something to change the world. Breast cancer brought me to that. And I'm going to say, every single one of my beautiful clients has had their jolt backward. And it is my commitment and my team's commitment to help you find your way forward. Because that jolt backward was intended to help you find that power, that dimension of your soul. But you know what? If you're not prepared to find it, if you don't know how to do it, if you don't have the techniques or the tools, it's going to keep going backwards and backwards and backwards. It's going to force you to find it. It's going to force you to go out and get it and be resourceful. It's going to force you into the dark night of the soul, because that is the transition of coming into your full self. And sometimes it's something that happens on the outside, and sometimes it's your own dark mystery about why your life isn't better. I don't know what it is for you, but I will tell you this: life does jolt us backward. And with the proper help and the proper perspective, it can jolt you so far forward, you don't even know what's possible, because your divinity, your pure essence of life force, and your connection to your divinity has so much more for you. And you may not be able to see it through the difficult times. You may not be able to see it through normal life. But I'm here to say to you, I don't only have myself as a witness. I have hundreds of other women who we've helped navigate the difficulties. And even though my breast cancer journey went through its course, I still have adverse life events to come through, to power me up to the next level, to take me to the next level and the next level, to each one help me claim who I really am, who I truly am committed to being. Am I committed to being the best version of me that God created? Or am I allowing the jolt backward and my ego and my psychology to hold me back? You get to claim it every time. You get to claim it each and every time that you're jolted backwards, how much you're committed to being your soul's best version. And it is in this month that I am always reminded, pink means more to me than the breast cancer journey. It means to me claiming my power. It means the thing that forced me to really see who I really am and what I'm really capable of and what I'm willing to commit to. And each and every day, I connect with my divine creator, and I review what I'm grateful for, and I review how awesome I am as a likeness and image of my creator. And I step into the arena of helping women claim themselves. Each and every morning, I do that, so that I can keep good on the promise that my soul asked and I answered 12 years ago. I hope that every human on this planet, in particular, every woman on this planet, claims her power and her greatness, because we need every single one of you in your greatest, highest power. We don't need anyone in fear. We don't need anyone with hate in their soul. We don't need that. We need humans who have chosen to evolve into their soul power, into their soul self, and to be beaming, shining lights on this planet Earth to make it better. I claimed that for myself. And I remember every single morning. And I feel blessed to have been jolted backwards so I could be jolted forward. And it is my great intention to continue to serve all of you ladies who've been into my workshop. As you know, you get lifetime access to all the resources. And it is my passion to help as many women claim themselves, to make that massive transformational pledge to themselves, and to show them the tools and the techniques, and to change lives, families, futures. When one woman changes her life, everyone around her gets the benefit of that. And that's the coolest thing ever. Everyone in my family understands their soul, their intentionality, and how their thoughts and feelings create their future and create their reality. They all understand that they are divine extensions. On many days, that's enough. On many days, that is enough. But I go back to that version of me sitting in that family room with my mom asleep and feeling that soul pledge that I made. So I'm here to keep it rolling. I'm here to help other souls claim who they really want to be. And you don't need a big ass jolt like breast cancer to claim your forwardness. You don't need that. But us humans, sometimes that's the mix of getting our attention. Maybe today I've gotten your attention. Hopefully this message resonated with you. Maybe it gave you comfort that your life is on the positive trajectory. Those of you who are my clients, thank you so much. And thank you for all of the great ways that you've honored my message and me particularly. Claim for yourself as we wrap up the most challenging year that humans have ever had. Claim your soul. It is the only way to navigate difficulties. Claim your soul. Claim who you truly are at a deep level. And let's get you to live the life that feels right and aligned and powerful for you. And thank you, Krista, for putting the booking call. The way we get started is through a complimentary career clarity call. I don't know if I can help you until we start breaking down what's going on for you. And we do that carefully. mofall.com/live clarity. Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, life is really loved you. Absolutely. And here's the thing. We're all living on this planet of physical material world. So your best job, your best income, the best way that you're able to live the world in the physical world is the first order of business. The second is for you to feel awesome doing it. But here's the real trick that no one's told you about. You got to claim your soul and your power before you can get all of the nice physical things going in the right direction. Because the physical world will be a struggle until your soul comes back alive. And that's why I do it in that order in my workshop. Soul first, then the career fix. Can't fix a career if your soul is still broken. Thank you. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for listening to my message. Thank you for allowing me to put my talents in the world to help you. Thank you for caring enough about your soul to spend this time with me. Thank you for being an interested soul on this planet, and let's get you to that highest version of you. I care about each and every woman who traverses into the work I do. Those of you who've worked with me, you understand my passion and my commitment. And those of you who are grads, please lean into all the tools and resources regularly. And please also commit yourself to your daily ritual of connecting with your divine. It is the most important thing you can do to keep your jolt going forward. So when life jolts you backwards, you got the tools to get yourself going in the proper right direction forward. We're all moving forward very rapidly now. The human experience is moving faster than ever. Take your steps forward. It's the only way to go. Thanks, everyone. This is career coach, kick-ass founder, and all-around soul lifter, Coach Mo Fall, and you can find me at mofall.com. Book your complimentary career clarity call at mofall.com/liveclarity, and we'll see if we can take care of your soul and your career and help you in the same way we've helped hundreds and hundreds of other women. Blessings to each and every one of you. Get your mammograms. Take care. See you next time.